Hi everyone, my name is Yusuf and I'm a medical student studying at Oxford University and I'm also the director of the Aspiring Medics. So in this video we'll be speaking to medical students from across the UK on reasons why you shouldn't go into medicine. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'd say the number one reason to not go into medicine is because it's intellectually challenging, particularly in the fact of the intensity required not only at medical school and how you've got all these exams that you've got and how you've got to memorize quite a huge amount actually in terms of volume as well as understanding of content, and that's anywhere between 5 years or 6 years depending on if you intercalate. As a junior doctor, you'll also have quite long hours, 9 to 6 for example. You can have a look at rotas online as well. As such, it's a career that can be quite intensive and require sustained efforts, not only as we said at medical school, but also beyond. And this is something that you really want to consider whether medicine is something that you want to do and whether you want to do it for such a sustained and intensive period of time.
I think one of the cons of studying medicine, specifically in the UK perhaps, is an underfunded NHS. I think it's chronically underfunded and understaffed, and that can lead you to feel quite isolated and stranded, and you can feel like you don't have any help available to you, which I think is a very, very stressful experience for not just doctors but healthcare workers on the whole. And I think as a public health system, I think lots of public health systems are chronically underfunded, and they're also so politically dependent. Funding and staffing is so politically dependent that it's just constantly changing, and I feel like it can also lead to burnout in doctors and other healthcare professionals, and there just isn't enough help for healthcare professionals to get over that burnout and stress and that feeling of being alone and stranded. And these are also systemic issues that take a long time to change, and they require lots of effort. So it's not something that you're going to see change in just a second. It's going to take a really, really long time, and some people just may not have the patience to wait to see that positive change.
So I think when people talk about one of the reasons they want to do medicine, they talk about lifelong learning. Essentially going through your entire medical career, medicine constantly evolving, new treatments coming out, all these sort of things, more research being uncovered, and how that appeals to them. Something that's quite exciting, and it means that the job isn't very boring in any way, and that's great, and I do sympathise with them. I understand it, I understand where they're coming from, but personally I do see it as a bit of a negative at the same time, because I know that I'll leave medical school with a fraction of the knowledge that I'll need for the rest of my years as a doctor, and so knowing that I'll leave and I'll have so much more learning to do as I progress, it's a little bit daunting, but I guess it's all part of it. And like I said, it means that it's not going to be too boring at all. But yeah, it's a little bit of a frustration knowing that I'm currently learning about things that that are going to be different in a decade or so. Yeah.
Another really important factor to think about is doctor pay, and there is this misconception that doctors are rich, and that very much unfortunately isn't the case. Doctors are really only well paid from consultant level onwards, and that's something really from 35 to 40 years of age plus that you're going to get. And also it's not something that you should have as a reason to go into medicine. And this is particularly important because if you are interested in simply making money, there are other jobs in the city, whether it be accounting, business, law, that will be able to be far more lucrative for you in the short term, but also in the long term rather than medicine. So the key takeaway is don't do medicine because of the money.
Hi, I'm Thurishan, and I'm a fourth-year medical student at the University of Oxford. And one of the reasons why I would advise against a career in medicine is the poor work-life balance. Medicine is a field with high stakes, steep learning curves, and big responsibilities. And often we don't have much time before we start to take on this responsibility for the lives of our patients. And once you're a doctor and a part of a medical team, you and your team will be responsible for the well-being of patients for every minute that they are under your care. And it takes a lot of time and attention to manage a patient's care. So as you can imagine, it's not simply a 9-to-5 job that you can forget about after you leave. Especially when you're still training, the hours can be long and strenuous, and there often isn't much time left for one's personal life. Medicine is a lifestyle and can consume your personal life if you're not careful. And with the medical profession being short-staffed, especially during the pandemic, doctors are asked to work longer hours and assume more responsibility. So you should consider what kind of work-life balance you'd like to have in the future when considering a career in medicine.
I think another challenge of working as a doctor or a healthcare professional is that it's so emotionally challenging and draining. For starters, you're constantly surrounded by death and illness, which, yes, are a part of life, and that's what we're trying to fix at hospitals and at clinics. But they are very depressing things to see, especially as a junior doctor, where one of your main jobs would be to sign death certificates, and that can take an emotional toll on you. Apart from that, there are scenarios where patients are just simply too sick for you to even make a tangible impact in their life, and that can be quite stressful and emotionally draining as well. On the flip side, you may think that you can help a patient and the patient simply refuses your help. And that's very draining as well, and you feel quite helpless because you know how to help this patient, but they're simply refusing your help. There's other such instances as well, such as having do not resuscitate discussions where you talk to patients and tell them that resuscitation isn't in their best interest, and causing patients to feel that kind of sadness is obviously heartbreaking to see. So I think practicing medicine is quite emotionally draining, and we don't have enough mental health support yet for doctors and other healthcare professionals to deal with these parts of medicine.
So one of the drawbacks of medicine is the really, really long training path. You've got 5 to 6 years of medical school, and then after that you've got your foundation years, and then you either go down the surgical route or the medical route, or perhaps something completely different like GP or psychiatry. And all of that can take many years. It can add up to 15 years of training, if not more. And that can be really exhausting at times. It means that you've got to prioritize medicine for a long part of your time. And so you have a lot less time, for example, to spend time with your family, to spend time with your friends, or pursue your other hobbies. That's not too much of an issue if you do kind of have, almost cliche term, but do have that passion for medicine. But it is something to consider before you apply, because once you're in for a long haul.